don't see a city here. I only see drugs controlling people, and people who seem to have lost their souls.
Welcome to U.S. Homeless Stories.
It's getting colder and colder, and they keep moving us around. Like, where did they expect us to go? Like, we have totally nowhere to go. Every spot that we have to camp.
You know, you'd wake up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and your fingertips and toes are frozen. Even doubling up on gloves, as these are, they tend to freeze, and the ears, sometimes they feel like, you know, they're gonna fall off. That even when you go into someplace warm, they start to tingle and they start to throb because they've gotten so cold.
Starting to develop health issues.
Oh yeah, like my arthritis. I have arthritis and it kills like I have to keep myself warm any way I can. They come and kick us out.
On U.S. Homeless Stories, today's story begins in a place often called one of the most livable cities in the world, hiding a reality few are prepared to face. In Vancouver, more than 3,600 people are experiencing homelessness, with nearly 40% living unsheltered, sleeping in tents, parks, and on city streets. Even more alarming, over 2,500 drug-related deaths occur each year in British Columbia, many concentrated in homeless communities, like the Downtown Eastside. By day, Vancouver is defined by mountains, ocean views, and postcard-perfect streets. When a city praised worldwide for its quality of life leaves thousands behind, what does livable truly mean? This film is a call to conscience and humanity. Stay until the end. What unfolds in Vancouver may redefine how we see beauty, wealth, and responsibility. If this story resonates with you, leave a comment, leave a like, and subscribe to U.S. Homeless Stories so these voices are no longer ignored. 1. Introduction to the crisis in Vancouver. This is U.S. Homeless Stories, a window into the enduring shadows of lives marked by uncertainty, where the streets of a city like Vancouver become silent stages for ongoing trials of survival without shelter. Here, homelessness unfolds as a relentless narrative of fragility, the daily grind of instability, where every moment teeters on the brink, sidelined by society's margins, burdened by the constant pressure to endure amid scarce resources and unspoken isolation. In Vancouver's expanse of 115 square kilometers, the 2025 point-in-time count reveals over 5,254 individuals facing homelessness across the metro region, a 9% rise from 2023's 421, extending from urban centers to suburbs like Surrey and rural edges. Lives play out in tense and transient spots, shadowed by mental strains, dependency cycles, and systemic oversights, yet threaded with community support that offers glimmers of solidarity. As gaps persist, can we turn awareness into collective care? In U.S. Homeless Stories, we illuminate not only this profound vulnerability, but also the gentle currents of human kindness that counter the gloom. A volunteer's quiet offering of a meal, a stranger's moment of listening. Simple gestures that reaffirm dignity and weave threads of hope through the fabric of hardship. These acts remind us that compassion can bridge unseen divides, nurturing resilience in the face of adversity. If these reflections in U.S. Homeless Stories move you, hit that like button, drop a comment with your insights, and subscribe to keep these conversations alive. Your participation helps foster a more humane dialogue. From my perspective, these accounts affirm that humanity thrives in quiet solidarity. Embracing vulnerability with grace builds bonds that restore worth, inspiring us to extend hands in everyday ways. As we delve further, individual threads bring this tapestry into poignant clarity, revealing depths of endurance and possibility. 2. A thin blanket in the freezing winter night. Winter on the streets of Vancouver is not simply cold. It is a slow, exhausting test of human endurance. As temperatures drop and damp air settles into the city, life without shelter becomes a daily struggle against exposure and fatigue. For people experiencing homelessness, winter removes any sense of safety. Each night arrives with uncertainty, and each morning is earned, not guaranteed. As darkness falls, the cold deepens. Wind cuts through thin layers of clothing. Rain seeps into blankets, and concrete drains warmth from the body. Sleep is rarely restful. It comes in brief, fragile moments, interrupted by shivering, noise, or the need to stay alert. In winter, survival depends on small, imperfect protections: a shared blanket, a piece of cardboard, a corner shielded from the wind. The physical toll accumulates quietly. Prolonged cold weakens the body, worsens untreated illnesses, and leaves little energy for recovery. But the emotional weight can be heavier still. Winter sharpens the feeling of isolation. While the city retreats indoors, those left outside feel increasingly invisible, moving through spaces that offer no refuge. The cold reinforces the sense of being pushed to the margins, where survival becomes a full-time burden. Watching this reality, we ask you to reflect. If you were facing a freezing night with nowhere to go, what would you rely on to make it through? Strength, luck, or the kindness of a stranger? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective matters. If stories like these resonate with you, consider subscribing to US Homeless Stories. Your support helps us continue giving space to voices that are too often unheard. And stay with us until the end of this documentary. What happens next may surprise you, revealing how one unexpected moment can alter the course of a life on the streets. Three. In the modern city, people succumb to addictive substances. In Vancouver, drug use is no longer confined to hidden corners. It takes place openly on sidewalks, in alleys, near transit stations, and public parks, visible to passers-by, commuters, and residents alike. This public visibility reflects not only addiction, but the absence of private space. For people without housing, the street becomes the only place where life happens, including moments of coping. According to Vancouver Coastal Health, street-level substance use is most concentrated in areas such as the Downtown Eastside, where outreach teams report daily encounters involving public consumption, often multiple times per block. In British Columbia overall, provincial monitoring shows that unregulated substances are present in the majority of serious drug-related health incidents, with fentanyl detected in roughly 80% of toxicity samples analyzed in recent reporting periods. At a national level, Canada stands out globally. Data from the OECD and Health Canada consistently place Canada among the highest opioid-consuming countries per capita in the world, particularly among high-income nations. Separate federal surveys indicate that approximately 5 to 6% of Canadians report using unregulated drugs, excluding cannabis, within a 12-month period, a rate considered high compared to peer countries. In major urban centers, usage rates among people experiencing homelessness are significantly higher due to compounding factors such as trauma, exposure, and lack of care. Public drug use is often misunderstood. What appears as disregard for public space is, in reality, a symptom of exclusion. Without housing, people have no private room, no closed door, no safe place to manage pain, stress, or dependency. The street becomes both shelter and witness, turning personal struggle into a public one. Pause for a moment and consider this. If every moment of vulnerability in your life had to be lived in full public view, how would that change the way you see yourself and how others see you? This reality quietly calls on the broader community. Not for blame or slogans, but for recognition that public drug use is a reflection of unmet needs, not moral failure. Where housing, treatment, and stability are absent, the street absorbs the consequences, and this story is not finished. In the next part, a small but unexpected moment shifts the direction of one life, revealing how thin the line can be between survival and change. If you choose to continue walking with these stories, You're invited to stay connected with U.S. homeless stories, not as spectators, but as witnesses willing to look longer and listen deeper. Four, the cold gaze of society. Beyond the visible hardships of life on the streets, another burden settles quietly over people experiencing homelessness, the way they are regarded by those around them. In Vancouver, a city of over 660,000 residents within a metro region of more than 2.6 million, homelessness unfolds in shared public spaces, yet social distance remains pronounced. People without shelter move through sidewalks, transit stations, and storefronts, while sensing an unspoken separation, a feeling of being present but not included. Public data reflects this divide. Regional surveys in British Columbia indicate that around 2/3 of residents acknowledge homelessness as a serious issue. Yet support often diminishes when solutions appear close to home. Across Metro Vancouver, thousands of supportive housing units have faced delays or opposition, even as the 2025 point-in-time count identified over 5,200 people experiencing homelessness, a 9% increase since 2023. Awareness is common. Willingness to share space is less certain. For individuals on the street, these attitudes shape everyday choices. Many describe navigating the city with caution, reading body language, avoiding eye contact, choosing routes that minimize confrontation. Over time, repeated moments of quiet avoidance can be internalized, reinforcing isolation and eroding the sense of dignity that comes from being recognized as part of the community. In a city where Indigenous people represent roughly 1/3 of the homeless population, historical exclusion intersects with present-day perceptions, deepening long-standing inequities. Pause and consider this gently. If each day you felt your presence caused others to turn away, how might that change the way you see yourself or your place in the world? This reality invites reflection rather than accusation. A community's strength is revealed not only in its prosperity, but in its capacity to acknowledge those living at its edges. Small acts of recognition, listening, learning. Choosing not to look away can soften boundaries that have grown rigid over time. If you choose to remain with these stories and reflect on what they reveal about shared responsibility and belonging, you are welcome to continue this journey with U.S. homeless stories as a quiet, long-term companion in witnessing lives that are too often passed by. Five, roots of the crisis. Homelessness in Vancouver did not emerge overnight. It is the outcome of pressures that have accumulated over years, shaped by economic shifts, social gaps, and policy choices that often move slower than need. At the center lies housing. In 2025, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Vancouver sits at around CAD $2,000 per month, while average incomes have not kept pace with rising living costs. For many households, a single disruption, a job loss, a health issue, an unexpected expense can be enough to push them out of stable housing. The shortage of affordable options deepens this vulnerability. Provincial data show that more than 20,000 households remain on wait lists for subsidized or supportive housing across British Columbia. New developments face delays linked to funding, zoning, and community resistance. As the market tightens, low-income earners, seniors, and people with disabilities are often the first displaced, leaving few alternatives once housing is lost. Social factors compound these pressures. Mental health challenges remain widespread among people experiencing homelessness, yet access to consistent care is limited. Outreach reports suggest that roughly 40% of individuals without shelter live with untreated or undertreated mental health conditions. This makes it harder to maintain employment or navigate complex housing systems. For Indigenous communities, who represent about 1/3 of the homeless population in Vancouver, these realities are layered onto long histories of displacement, intergenerational trauma, and systemic exclusion. Population growth also plays a role. Canada's continued immigration targets and Vancouver's global appeal bring economic vitality, but they also increase competition in an already strained housing market. As demand rises faster than supply, those with the least financial cushion are pushed further to the margins, where recovery becomes increasingly difficult. Consider this quietly. If stability depended on forces beyond your control, Rent, health, timing. How secure would any of us truly be? These roots remind us that homelessness is not simply an individual circumstance, but a reflection of how systems interact. Housing, healthcare, income, and social inclusion are interconnected. When one weakens, the effects ripple outward. Understanding these foundations does not assign blame. It clarifies responsibility, shared, complex, and human. If you find value in exploring these deeper layers and staying with stories that look beyond surface impressions, you are welcome to continue alongside U.S. Homeless Stories as a way of listening more closely to how lives are shaped long before the street comes into view. Six. What has the government done for the homeless? Faced with a homelessness crisis that continues to grow in scale and complexity, governments in Vancouver, British Columbia, and at the federal level have expanded their responses over the past decade. These efforts reflect a recognition that homelessness is not a temporary disruption, but a long-term structural issue tied to housing supply, health systems, and social support. At the provincial level, BC Housing remains the primary agency responsible for housing interventions. As of 2025, official figures indicate that more than 21,000 households across British Columbia are on wait lists for subsidized or supportive housing, with a significant concentration in Metro Vancouver. Since 2017, the province reports having funded or completed approximately 78,000 affordable and supportive housing units, including permanent supportive housing, modular housing, and co-op homes. Despite this, the pace of demand continues to outstrip supply, particularly in high-cost urban areas. Emergency and short-term measures have also expanded. During recent winters, the City of Vancouver and the province jointly funded hundreds of additional temporary shelter and modular housing spaces, responding to increased street homelessness and extreme weather risks. Outreach teams have been scaled up to provide connections to shelter, healthcare, and housing applications. Yet these services remain stretched, often operating at or beyond capacity. Health-related responses form another pillar. Vancouver Coastal Health supports harm reduction services, supervised consumption sites, and drug checking programs aimed at reducing health risks linked to unregulated substances. Mental health services have received increased funding on paper, but providers continue to report long wait times and limited access to sustained treatment. For many people living without stable housing, care arrives late, fragmented, or ends too soon. At the federal level, Canada's National Housing Strategy commits over $80 billion across 10 years toward affordable housing, rent support, and homelessness prevention. Through programs such as Reaching Home, Vancouver receives targeted funding for shelters, outreach, and housing stabilization. Yet coordination across federal, provincial, and municipal systems remains complex, and delays between funding announcements and on-the-ground impact are common. Pause for a moment and consider this. If your stability depended on waiting lists, program eligibility, and timelines beyond your control, how long could you realistically hold on? These efforts point to intention, but they also reveal limits. Policies move through planning cycles and budget years, while life on the street unfolds day by day. The gap between long-term solutions and immediate human need is where many fall through, not because of a lack of effort alone, but because systems often act in pieces rather than as a whole, and this story is still unfolding. Ahead, a quieter moment brings these policies down from paper to street level, showing how decisions made in offices ripple into the lives of real people in unexpected ways. If these realities resonate with you, you're welcome to show that by leaving a like. And if you wish to continue walking alongside these ongoing stories, U.S. Homeless Stories invites you to stay connected. Subscribing is a way of accompanying lives shaped by policy, circumstance, and resilience, over time, rather than just one moment. Provincial data show that more than 20,000 households remain on wait lists for subsidized or supportive housing across British Columbia. New developments face delays linked to funding, zoning, and community resistance. As the market tightens, low-income earners, seniors, and people with disabilities are often the first displaced, leaving few alternatives once housing is lost. Social factors compound these pressures. Mental health challenges remain widespread among people experiencing homelessness, yet access to consistent care is limited. Outreach reports suggest that roughly 40% of individuals without shelter live with untreated or undertreated mental health conditions. This makes it harder to maintain employment or navigate complex housing systems. For Indigenous communities, who represent about 1/3 of the homeless population in Vancouver, these realities are layered onto long histories of displacement, intergenerational trauma, and systemic exclusion. Population growth also plays a role. Canada's continued immigration targets and Vancouver's global appeal bring economic vitality, but they also increase competition in an already strained housing market. As demand rises faster than supply, those with the least financial cushion are pushed further to the margins, where recovery becomes increasingly difficult. Consider this quietly. If stability depended on forces beyond your control, rent, health, timing, how secure would any of us truly be? These roots remind us that homelessness is not simply an individual circumstance, but a reflection of how systems interact. Housing, healthcare, income, and social inclusion are interconnected. When one weakens, the effects ripple outward. Understanding these foundations does not assign blame. It clarifies responsibility, shared, complex, and human. If you find value in exploring these deeper layers and staying with stories that look beyond surface impressions, you are welcome to continue alongside U.S. Homeless Stories as a way of listening more closely to how lives are shaped long before the street comes into view. Seven, efforts and hopes amid the crisis. Amid the weight of homelessness in Vancouver, hope does not arrive as a grand solution, but as a series of quiet, human efforts repeated day after day. While large systems struggle to keep pace, many responses emerge close to the street, shaped by direct contact with people whose lives remain fragile and uncertain. Community organizations and frontline workers continue to form the backbone of daily support. In 2025, local nonprofits and outreach teams provide tens of thousands of meals each month, distribute warm clothing and hygiene supplies, and offer guidance through complex housing and health systems. Mobile outreach workers return to the same blocks regularly, not only to provide resources, but to maintain trust, often the first step toward any form of stability. These actions may seem small, yet for many, they are the only consistent points of contact in an unpredictable life. Temporary measures offer limited relief. Winter response programs and emergency funding have added hundreds of short-term shelter spaces, giving some people a brief pause from exposure and exhaustion. Still, with more than 21,000 households waiting for affordable housing, these efforts serve as a bridge rather than a destination. They buy time, but they cannot replace the security of a permanent home. Volunteers play a quiet but essential role in sustaining this fragile balance. From serving meals late at night to checking in on familiar faces during harsh weather, many return week after week, aware that they cannot solve the crisis alone. Their presence sends a simple message. Someone notices, someone cares. In environments defined by instability, that recognition can be as meaningful as material help. Harm reduction and health services also remain part of this landscape. They offer safer points of contact and basic care in conditions where risk is constant. These services do not erase hardship, but they help people endure long enough to imagine something beyond survival. Pause for a moment and reflect. If your days depended on the quiet commitment of strangers, how might that shape your sense of hope or your will to keep going? These efforts remind us that compassion does not always announce itself. It often works quietly, filling gaps left by larger systems, holding space until something stronger can take root. Responsibility here is shared, not carried by one group or institution, but by the collective choices a community makes about who is worth noticing. If these stories resonate with you on a human level, you're welcome to mark that connection with a like. And if you wish to continue accompanying these unfolding realities, U.S. Homeless Stories invites you to stay connected. Subscribing is a quiet way of walking alongside lives shaped by hardship, resilience, and the small spaces where hope still appears. Eight, Conclusion. As this story draws to a close, what remains is not a single scene, a number, or a conclusion that neatly resolves itself. What remains is an understanding, quiet but persistent, that homelessness is not an abstract issue, but a lived reality shaped by fragile circumstances and shared environments. The streets of Vancouver reveal how quickly stability can erode when housing, health, and support no longer align, leaving individuals to navigate uncertainty one day at a time. Throughout this journey, we have seen that life without shelter is defined not only by hardship, but by endurance. People continue forward despite cold nights, social distance, and limited options, holding on to dignity through small, determined acts. These stories remind us that resilience is not dramatic or heroic. It is often silent, unfolding in ordinary moments that go unnoticed by most of the city. At the same time, this reality asks us to look inward. Homelessness exists within our communities, not apart from them. It is shaped by collective choices, systems that move slowly, and everyday interactions that either widen distance or create connection. The measure of a city is not found only in its success, but in how it acknowledges those who struggle within it. Pause and reflect gently. If your sense of safety depended on the understanding of others, how would you hope to be seen in your most vulnerable moment? This is not a call to guilt or blame. It is an invitation to awareness, to recognize that compassion is not a grand gesture, but a steady presence. When people are seen, heard, and remembered, even briefly, it restores something essential: the feeling of belonging to a shared human story. If this documentary has touched you, challenged your perspective, or simply stayed with you, you're welcome to acknowledge that connection by leaving a like or sharing your thoughts in the comments. Your reflections help keep these conversations alive. And if you wish to continue walking alongside stories that reveal both struggle and humanity, U.S. Homeless Stories invites you to subscribe and remain with us for what comes next. Thank you for watching until the very end, for giving your time, your attention, and your openness to stories that deserve more than a passing glance.